recording that, I was just saying to everybody listening, hi, everybody watching the recording, welcome to today's Q&A. I was just telling everyone on the call that we are recording all new workouts for the Butt Camp Challenge in January, which is launching in January. And I know you're all like, Kim, we're literally in week 2 of Buns and Guns, and we all just got the holiday shred as well, and we're not even thinking about January yet. But this is how far ahead I think. This is how committed I am to the growth of your glutes, just FYI. So they're very exciting, the new workouts. You're going to absolutely love them. We've literally just figured out a way to make them so effective. You are going to die when you see them, and probably when you're doing them. Right, let's go. You ready? Question number 1. Andriana Leventis. She says, in previous challenges that had cardio, I remember it was said that after 30 minutes, the body starts burning fat. Now with 5-minute warm up and 5-minute cool down, it's about 20 minutes of heart rate in fat burning zone. Is that still enough to burn fat? Thank you. Great question. So the reason why we have changed the cardio for these workouts is because this cardio is high intensity cardio. It's not low intensity steady state cardio. So whenever you are doing low intensity steady state cardio, you want to always be monitoring your heart rate to make sure that it stays in the fat burning zone. And the reason this is important is that I realized whenever we ran challenges in the past that a lot of the members were doing low intensity steady state cardio by going, say, on a walk on a treadmill, or they were going for a walk with their dog, or they were, doing some kind of other low intensity steady state cardio, but their heart rates were not in the fat burning zone, because unless you're actively monitoring your heart rate, you don't know if it's in the fat burning zone or not. And quite often it's not. And I discovered this myself whenever I was prepping for one of my shows years ago. And I was doing cardio. I used to go out for a walk every night with the dog. So I would do my cardio in the morning, I would do my second cardio in the evening, and I used to take my dog for a walk. And I went for what I would consider to be a power walk. And now my dog does not walk on a lead. So I don't, need to stop for him to sniff or pee or poop or whatever. I can just like march on, and he'll, well, obviously I stop and pick up his poop, but I can just keep going. I don't need to stop with him. And I wasn't burning as much fat as I thought I should be. And I remember Mark, who was prepping me at the time, my prep coach, saying to me, well, what's your heart rate? Is your heart rate in the fat burning zone? And I was like, I assume so. And he said, well, how do you know? Are you tracking it? I said, no, but I will. So I started tracking it using my Apple Watch. And I realized that my heart rate was not in the fat burning zone. I was not walking fast enough to get into the fat burning zone. My heart rate was hovering around, I think, about 110, and I need to be above 128 to be in the fat burning zone. Maybe it's 123. So I realized very quickly that I actually was way below the fat burning zone, and that's why I wasn't burning as much fat. So what I started doing was monitoring my fat burning zone, and I then realized that I had to run intermittently to get my heart rate up, because walking on the road in your fat burning zone is actually quite difficult to do, because there's curbs and you have to stop and cross the road and all this kind of stuff. So I realized that I just was not able to walk fast enough on the road. Much easier on a treadmill, because the treadmill is, rolling, and so you just keep up with the pace of the treadmill. But actually keeping up that pace whenever you're walking on the road and it's undulating and you're crossing and there's curbs and whatever, it's actually super difficult. So I realized that I just hadn't been working as hard as I possibly should. And then it came to me like, oh my God, if I'm not working as hard as I should be to burn fat, then probably my members are not, because our cardio in our programs was always low intensity, steady state cardio. So I then started getting members to track their heart rate zone to make sure they were in the fat burning zone whenever they were doing cardio, because that was the way that we could guarantee the results. However, with the change in the cardio now in these programs, because it's all follow along cardio, your heart rate, if you follow our workouts and you do it the way we recommend that you do it, your heart rate is definitely going to be above your fat burning zone, and you're probably going to go into your max heart rate many, many times. So high intensity interval training cardio is very different to low intensity steady state cardio. Whenever you're doing low intensity steady state cardio, it takes about 10 minutes for your heart rate to get up into the fat burning zone, unless you start running. Like if you immediately start out by running or sprinting, your heart rate's going to go up there really quickly. And that's what I used to do whenever I did low intensity steady state cardio, and I realized that I wasn't doing it effectively enough. But if you're not doing that, then if you're doing the workouts in our programs now, the way that I have you training pushes your heart rate right up there, and you get up quite quickly. So the 5-minute warm up in the beginning If you do it intensely enough, the way that, we recommend that you do it, then like, I always give options in the warm up. I always say, if you're feeling energetic, give a little jump or a little knee bend or a little, put a little more sass into it. If you're doing it that way, you're going to get your heart rate up there pretty quickly. But that's not even that important, because during the 20 minutes of cardio, your heart rate's going to go in and out of your max zone if you're giving it like full throttle. And I don't mean full throttle as in like you should be following me exactly, because if you can't jump, you're not obviously going to be able to jump. But you should be aiming to do the cardio to the very best of your ability. Like you should be thinking, can I do a full jumping jack here? Can I do it for full minutes? Can I do, in the mountain climbers, can I jump the knees in, out, in, out, in, out, and not just step, It's the lowest intensity that we give you is really just if you're injured or you can't do it or you have limitations. It's like you can be doing as much, you should be doing as much as you can in the cardio. If you can jump, you should be jumping. If you can do a full burpee, you should be doing a full burpee. If you can squat all the way down, you should be squatting all the way down. Just because we give you easier options doesn't mean you should take them. It's only if you cannot take any other option, you do that. We want to make sure we're giving options for everybody. So the high intensity steady state cardio also gives you the benefit of what's called exercise post oxygen consumption, also known as EPOC. Whenever your heart rate goes up into the max burning zone and then down and then up again and then down and then up again, which it should be during our cardio, you actually benefit from fat burning way after the session ends, because your body keeps burning fat even after it's finished because of the heart rate pattern that you obtained during that cardio. So you don't need to track your heart rate if you're doing the follow-alongs the way they're designed to be done, which is you should be giving a lot of intensity to those workouts. And if you're doing it with intensity, then you are burning fat and you don't need to track your heart rate. But that's the difference in the programs then and the programs now. So follow along with me. I've done all the thinking for you. All you have to do is do your best, and I promise the magic will happen. And also you're burning fat as well, don't forget, during the actual workout. So that's something else people don't consider. The workouts, the way we're doing them now, you're burning a lot more fat because your heart rate is going up during the workouts. Whenever we just had gym workouts and you were supposed to, go to the gym, you weren't, I never break a sweat in the gym. When I actually go and train in the gym, the only time my heart rate goes up moderately is whenever I'm training legs. Like when I'm training arms, my heart rate never increases. So you're burning a lot of fat as well during the workouts, which is why you don't need as much cardio as you may have done in previous programs, because we've got you covered in both sessions. And that's why the results are so good. Okay, Michelle R. Cook. I need help with self-sabotage. I'm good most of the time, but when I fall, and it's always when other people start to notice. So, Michelle, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like it's always when people start to notice that you're doing well? I'm going to assume that that's what you mean. People start noticing your results, and then that's when you effectively let yourself off the hook. This one's a kind of a hard one to answer. So I'll just give you my experience of I guess, of self-sabotage and what this is for me. So the thing you have to remember about self-sabotage is a choice, okay? So it's not something that happens that's kind of outside of yourself. I think that a lot of times we put self-sabotage down to, oh my God, like I totally just self-sabotage, as if this self-sabotage thing is something that happens to us that isn't a choice that we made. And one of the first steps of overcoming self-sabotage is to recognize that you are choosing in every single moment. You are choosing to stay on your diet, or you're choosing to go off your diet. So being on a diet isn't like a kind of a long-term thing. Being on a diet or being on a fitness program is a moment-to-moment choice. So it's like, in this moment, I'm going to choose to work out. In this moment, I'm going to choose to not eat this thing and eat that. In this moment, I'm then going to choose this. So every single day you're making choices. You're making choices for breakfast, choices for snacks, choices for lunch, choices for dinner, choices for snacks. You're making choices whenever you're in work and food is presented that is not on plan. You're making choices to pick up that chocolate and put it in your mouth, or to ignore the chocolate. Self-sabotage is not something that happens to you, and it's not this great big thing that kind of slams upon you. It's like something happens where you make a decision, and then after you've made that decision, you decide to stop your diet. And that's really all it is. And I think it's really important to reframe this away from, oh my God, I don't know what happens, I just self-sabotage. It's like as if somehow as if you're not in control. Like you are in control. You just made a decision So let's say somebody notices, someone goes, oh my God, Michelle, look at you. You look amazing. You've lost so much weight. That triggers something inside of you for you to decide that it's either okay for you to stop your diet, or maybe it triggers a fear in you, which, oh my God, like I actually don't want people to notice me. And so therefore I'm going to go back to being the way I was and people didn't notice me. So you either have a fear of being noticed, or the noticing gives you validation and you think that it's okay to make the decision to stop. I'm not sure which one it is, and it could be something completely different. Those are the two reasons I can hypothesize. But what you have to remember is self-sabotage isn't something that happens from outside of you. It's not like your other self takes over. You are only one person, and that person decides in every single moment. So you wake up every day and you decide in every single moment to either stay on your diet or move off your diet. But if you decide to move off your diet and you eat something off plan, that doesn't mean that the whole thing has finished. It just means that you will then make another decision to either go back on your diet, or you will make another decision to go off your diet. So do you see what I'm saying? It's not like, oh my God, I ate the chocolate cake and so now I have self-sabotaged and so nothing after that matters. It's like, oh my God, I ate the chocolate cake, decision. Okay, so then I make another decision to eat something else off diet. And then I make another decision to eat something else off diet. Then I make another decision. So self-sabotage isn't an event, one event that happens. It's a decision after decision after decision after decision after decision. You're deciding in every single moment. So you can either see, I've gone off plan, or someone has noticed and then that caused me to eat off plan. You can either see that as one decision, and then you get to make another decision after that. And that decision is either, okay, well, I put that behind me and I'm going to go back on plan. Or you get to make another decision to, okay, well, that happened, I'm going to stay off plan. So try and reframe self-sabotage to either I'm deciding in every single moment to stay on plan, or I'm deciding to move off plan. It's not one decision. It's decision after decision after decision after decision. Our life is made up by decisions. We decide in every single moment how we're going to feel, how we're going to react, what we're going to eat, whether we're going to train, whether we're going to do our cardio with intensity, or whether we're going to let ourselves off the hook. We are deciding. Now, sometimes there are things that cause those decisions, like maybe we're tired, maybe we're sick, maybe we're having a really bad day. And so, maybe we're injured. And so we do the best that we can. I'm deciding today to protect my injury and not go full throttle in the cardio. Great. That's a great decision. That's a decision that supports your body. But a lot of times people go, oh, well, that's it. I'm injured now. I can't do the program, so I'm going to stop. Okay. And then they blame, well, I couldn't go on because I was injured. Well, you could have figured out a way around it, but you decided to stop. At least take responsibility for your decision. It doesn't mean that it's bad that you decided to stop. No one's judging you for it. No one cares. You're judging you, which is why you think that other people judge you, which is why you feel you have to justify it. What if you just stopped justifying? And what if you started reframing everything in your life, not you, Michelle, but everybody here? What if you started reframing everything in your life as, I decided to stop. I decided to keep going. I decided to eat chocolate cake. I decided to stay on diet. Oh, wow, this is amazing. Like today at lunchtime, I made a decision to stay on diet and eat my lunch. Fantastic. Like I did this years ago and it completely changed my life. I remember I had to pick, so this is where it changed for me. I remember I had to pick someone up. I was in America and I was doing a training program in America, and I had 2 kids at the time. So I had them with me and I had someone looking after the kids, and I had to get up super early, wake them up, drive them over to the house to drop them off. And then I had to go and pick, someone else up after that. And I remember messaging the person that I had to go and pick them up. Now, in the morning, I had just slept in, and I hadn't slept in. I had made a decision to not get up when the alarm went off. And then I was tired. So I made another decision to not, hurry up, not go so fast as I needed to. And then I made another decision to, do whatever. So being late was a decision. And a lot of times people are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I was late. Like the traffic was really bad. Like my alarm didn't go off. And they blame all of these things because we don't want to say to somebody, sorry, I'm late. I didn't want to come, which is really what it is, right? Sorry, I'm late. I didn't want to come. Or sorry, I'm late. I decided to sleep in. Like imagine if you started doing this instead of blaming things external to yourself. Imagine if you were just brutally honest. And a lot of self-sabotage comes down to brutal honesty. You wake up and you say, or if you're late, you get to work, or you pick someone up late, instead of making an excuse, you just say, I'm so sorry I'm late. This morning I made a lot of decisions which kept me late. Imagine how different that would be. Like, oh, are you still doing your program? No, I'm not. You see, because I got injured, and then I mean, the program is just far too difficult to do when you're injured, and it's a competition. You see, so I just thought, I would no. It's like I got injured, and so I decided to stop. Imagine how different your life would be if you took full responsibility for all of your decisions. Why do we not want to do this? Because whenever we're kids, we're punished. We're punished for our actions. Our actions sometimes have negative consequences. And so we want to avoid the negative consequences, which usually come with what other people think. How many times when you were a child did somebody, a parent or a teacher, someone say, just tell me the truth. I promise I won't be mad. And so you were like, okay. And so you tell them the truth, which is usually, I broke the thing, I did the bad thing that you're afraid you're going to get punished for. And then bam, they're like mad at you. They go, I told you shouldn't have done that. And you were whatever. And you're like, okay, no, I totally don't trust you because you promised me that you wouldn't be mad and now you're mad. And so we learn to hide our actions because our actions have negative consequences. So we hide from this thing and we wrap it up in self-sabotage when really it's just, I decided to stop. If you take responsibility, that's the first step to overcoming self-sabotage. Admitting your decisions, taking responsibility for your life and your decisions. You are in control. The only way that you are not in control of your life is if you are enslaved. Now you can say, well, I live with a very abusive husband and, and he punishes me whenever I, do this or do that or whatever. So I have to hide these things from him. Well, maybe you do, but also you could decide to end the relationship. You could decide to leave. You could decide, now, would it be very difficult? Yes. Would there be a lot of negative consequences? Yes. I'm not saying there wouldn't be negative consequences to the decision, but you decide to stay if this is the case for you, because the alternative is worse than staying. So you stay because staying, although it is uncomfortable, is more comfortable than leaving, because leaving is more uncomfortable. So you decide to stay. So, and this, whenever you start to really take responsibility for every single thing that happens in your life that is negative, everything changes, because you can't actually take responsibility for the good things that happen if you're not willing to take responsibility for the negative things that happen. When people praise me for, in the company, even for creating this or doing this or having success, right? I can't take responsibility for that success if I'm not also willing to take responsibility for the failures. When a failure happens in my company or in my family or in my life, the first thing I say is, how am I responsible? Something happens that's negative with one of my kids. Something happens that's negative in the company. There's like, let's say Tasha is doing something in the company, right? And let's say she makes a mistake that costs us a lot of money, right? Let's say a launch, something happens and oh my God, there's a, this really bad thing happens. Never, ever in my life would I ever blame Tasha. And this is one thing people will tell you when they come to work for me. There is no blame in this company, ever. I never blame. When there's a failure in the company, I say, okay, well, that was unfortunate. Let's look at all of the decisions that led up to this happening so we can ensure that it doesn't happen again. Because when you blame, when I say, Tasha, that's your fault, you know what I do? I abnegate all responsibility and I give all of the responsibility for my company to Natasha. I say, I'm not responsible. And if I say I'm not responsible, then if there's a problem in the future, I won't know how to fix it because I haven't looked at how I caused it to happen. So I look at, what information was Natasha missing? Where did I give her responsibility that she wasn't ready for? Where did I give her a project that she was ill-equipped to handle? Where did I not give her data that was necessary for her to complete this task? When a failure happens that is nothing to do with me, I look at where I caused the failure. And then I can fix it in the future. I can make sure that it doesn't happen again. Because I take ultimate responsibility for everything that happens in my life. If one of my kids makes a decision that is very destructive, that I think is nothing to do with me, rather than blaming them and abnegating responsibility, I ask, how did I cause this? How did I cause the breakdown of this relationship? How did I cause the breakdown of this communication? Where am I responsible? I'm not saying that they are not also responsible, but if I can look at where I caused it to happen, I can change it in the future. If you don't look at where you caused it to happen, you cannot change it. You're a victim. When you say, I am a victim of self-sabotage, you are saying, I cannot solve this problem. I cannot change it. But what you're actually saying is, I don't want to change it. When someone victimizes themselves, they want to remain a victim. Not always. Sometimes it can be like, I don't recognize that I can change it. But now that I've told you this, you all know you can change it. So you don't get to be a victim anymore. So this is life-changing when you ultimately look at how are you responsible. Let me give you one more example before I move on, because this is so important. So there was one day, somebody had told me there was a massive oil spill in one of the in an ocean. This is years ago. This is maybe like 15, 20 years ago. There's a massive oil spill in an ocean. And I remember somebody was telling me about it and saying, isn't that ridiculous? And that company this, and that company that, and they should have done this, and they should have done that. And they're harming our environment. And I said, well, what if you could figure out how you're responsible for the oil spill in the ocean? And this person was like, what? And I said, how are you responsible for that oil spill? Me. How am I responsible for the oil spill of a company that I have nothing to do with? And I said, yeah. And they were like, well, I'm not. And I was like, well, do you drive a car? Yes. I said, does that car run on diesel? Yes. Do you have oil that maybe fires your central heating? Yes. I said, okay. So you have a certain responsibility in creating a demand for the oil that put that tanker on the ocean, that caused it to have to transport it in the first place, because you are part of the demand. You are paying inadvertently that company to transport the oil. You have a responsibility in that oil spill. I'm not saying you are responsible for it, but you have a responsibility in it being there if you have ever used or participated in or paid for something that requires oil or diesel. And they were completely blown away by it. And it's whenever you go that deep with your level of responsibility and you see your effect in the world, you see how you affect all things, all beings, everywhere. Whenever you start to look for where you're responsible, like an investigator, it changes your life, because you feel so powerful that you can change anything, because you can change anything when you can see how you're responsible for it. But when you victimize yourself and you say, this thing called self-sabotage just happens to me, well, then you are making yourself a victim and you will never be able to change it. So for anyone who suffers from self-sabotage, my first advice to you is, how do you cause yourself to get to the point where you make the decision to stop? That's the first thing you need to figure out. What is it about people commenting to you or noticing? Like you've already said, it's always when people start to notice. Okay, so now you're aware of it. Next time someone notices and you get the urge to stop, which really is what you make the decision to stop. That's really what self-sabotage is. Now you can pause. So they always say freedom lies in the capacity to pause between stimulus and response. I'll say that again. Freedom lies in the capacity to pause between stimulus and response. Stimulus, people start to notice. Response, I decide to stop. I decide to eat. I decide to whatever. Now that you're aware of stimulus and response, you now have freedom, because now you can choose differently. And if you decide not to choose differently, that's a decision. And that's fine. It's not that it's bad that you decide to not choose differently, but don't pretend that you don't. It's the pretending that we're not deciding is the cause of all of our problems. And if each of us just looked at where we are responsible for everything that happens in our lives, that's the catalyst to change. That's how you change things. And it's impossible if you don't do that. That was a very deep question for question number 2. I'm sure you're all a bit shell-shocked. You're like, well, I just came on here today hoping I was going to get a nice wee Q&A, and Christ, she's on her high horse already. So it doesn't bode well for the rest of the Q&A. Right, let's keep going. Great question. Really great question. Love that we got a chance to deal with that so early on. Thank you so much for asking it. Okay, Monica Winsk. Everyone take like a, everyone have like a wee, give themselves a wee shake now. During the past 2 competitions, I watched a TikTok that suggested using a combo of pre-pro-post biotic daily to help my body's gut health during my journey. And I did. Did they just take my money, or did these really work? Is it the only time? It is the only time I've taken them in my 66 years, and I thought my body knew what to do. Look, probiotics, are they useful? Yes, they can be very useful. Many of us have destroyed our gut flora over the years by eating a lot of crap. The thing about your microbiome in your gut is your microbiome breeds bacteria to feed the food that you normally eat. So different bacteria are responsible for breaking down different types of food. If you have had a diet which is high in carbs and sugar and white refined carbs and high sugar, high glycemic index foods, then your body will have developed a whole host of bacteria to deal with those foods. And they multiply and multiply and multiply. And so whenever then you start to eat more fiber and green cruciferous vegetables and salads and whole grains and protein, a lot of times people can become very constipated when they first start our programs. And that's simply because your microbiome does not have the bacteria necessary to break down these new foods. It takes a while for those bacteria to multiply. So it will have some of the bacteria, but it won't have enough to deal with the onslaught of new and healthy fiber-rich foods, especially when you start eating a lot of fiber. Because here's the other thing. White starchy carbs don't have a lot of fiber because fiber basically just becomes poop. So a lot of them are broken down in the small intestine and passed through into the bloodstream to be either utilized as energy or stored as fat. That's why they make you fat. Only food that makes it into the bloodstream counts as calories. So when you eat a piece of white bread, very little of that actually gets passed through to the large colon for fermentation by the bacteria. Most of it gets absorbed into the bloodstream because it's very high glycemic index. Whenever you eat a lot of fiber-rich food, very little of it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. Most of it goes through the intestines as poop. And your bacteria have a shit attack, right? And that's actually quite funny, bacteria having a shit attack. But yeah, it's a good analogy. They have a shit attack. They're like, oh my God, there are not enough of us. It's like you sending in like a massive siege onslaught of soldiers, right, into your digestive system that your body can't cope with, right? Just doesn't have the manpower to cope with it. So it struggles and struggles and struggles to make enough bacteria to break down all those foods. And that's why you can become constipated. You get backed up in there. So you need to take a lot of magnesium to draw water into the bile to move it all along. But as you continue to eat this way and you continue to take magnesium to allow things to move through the bile more fluidly, then your body will make more and more and more of those bacteria. So a lot of times a probiotic can help, actually. And so many times, especially if we've been eating a lot of canned foods, processed foods, and I know in America, like it's so much more common than here. It's funny, I noticed a thing in the group yesterday. Someone had asked about peppers and they'd said, are we using jarred peppers or fresh peppers here? And Rona, who's one of the coaches, she lives here in the UK and she was like, I've never even seen peppers in a jar. Now, I have seen peppers in a jar because I would buy them sometimes and slice them up and put them in salads. But over here, like, if you put a pepper or a capsicum, they call it in Australia. I'm not sure if they call it in America or not. But if you put a capsicum or a pepper in a recipe, it's fresh. And it's the same as pumpkin. I remember someone I was coaching once. She said she really loved pumpkin. And so could she have it on her meal plan? So I was putting lots of pumpkin on her meal plan. And so she said to me at one point, she said, I just am finding it really hard to make these recipes because of the pumpkin. And I was like, why are you finding it difficult? She said, well, because they're hard to make, with pumpkin. And I was like, I don't understand. You just peel it, slice it, cut out the seeds, like roast it in the oven. And she said, no, I use pumpkin in a can. And I was like, pumpkin in a what? And she said, pumpkin in a can. I was like, pumpkin in a can? Like, is that even such a thing? You can't even buy pumpkin in a can here in the UK. If you're talking about pumpkin or butternut squash, it's fresh. So I have since discovered, since running this company, that in America everything is canned. I remember Jamie, my ex, she used to be my director of operations in the company. Actually, was just on a call with her there. We're still really good friends. I remember her saying to me, she was in my house once, and I was cooking and I started making a bolognese, and I pulled out cans of tomatoes and tomato puree and different things, and she was like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm making bolognese. And she said, do you not just use a jar? And I was like, a jar of what? She said, like a jar of spaghetti sauce. A jar of spaghetti sauce to make lasagna? I was blown away by this. I was like, no, you make it from scratch. She said, I've never, ever in my life. I didn't even know you could make it from scratch. I thought that bolognese came from a jar. So I've had to learn all these things as I go along. So what I will say is, for my dear American friends, because a lot of your food, through no fault of your own, culturally comes from cans and jars, I think. A lot of it isn't fresh. The first time I ever saw eggs in a carton was in UK. Do you know we only got egg whites in a carton? I would say 3-4 years ago. Like, I remember searching for the eggs when I was in America. I was like, where are the eggs? And then I found this tiny little egg section in the back of the supermarket. People were like, they're in the fridge. And I was like, eggs in a carton? You actually buy eggs in a carton? They looked at me like I had three heads. How do you buy eggs? So I don't know, you can't even buy eggs in a carton in the UK. So unfortunately, Americans, the way your food system has developed, everything comes in a carton or a can or a jar. And a lot of those things are filled with salt and sugar and additives. And, you know, it's no wonder your microbiomes are so messed up. So I think that certainly diet dependent has a lot to do with whether or not you should use a probiotic or a prebiotic. I don't take a probiotic currently. I have done in the past. They can make you really gassy. So if you start a probiotic, just be careful. Like, start slow. Don't like start with like 2 straight away. You know, start small and build up. Because they will literally just dump a whole pile of bacteria into your digestive system, which will go crazy, munching all the fiber and all the food that you're eating and give you a lot of gas. So they definitely are useful. I think they're more useful for people who haven't had a diet typically filled with fresh fruit and vegetables. You know, vegetables that you peel and chop yourself, not vegetables that come in a can, even though they're marketed as fresh. Even frozen vegetables, I wouldn't consider those to be fresh, even though they are freshly frozen. For me, fresh is you buy it, you peel it, you chop it, you steam it. That's fresh. So if your diet hasn't consisted of a lot of that type of food, then a probiotic may be useful for you. Is it necessary for menopause? I don't think so. There's nothing in menopause that causes your microbiome to be disrupted or changed. What happens in menopause is, with estrogen levels falling, your digestive system just doesn't work as well. And I've found since I started a GLP-1, my digestion is absolutely perfect. But in menopause, it was terrible. I was so gassy and my body just could not digest food properly. I thought I needed to take a probiotic, so I did. And that just made me even gassier. It was awful. So I find that without a GLP-1, the taking a probiotic made me worse, not better. So I don't think a probiotic, in my personal experience, is menopause specific or even menopause helpful. It's definitely helpful for someone who's had a diet filled with white bread, white carbs, pasta, canned food, jarred food, processed food, sugary foods, salty foods, those kinds of things. I do think that it is definitely useful if you're transitioning out of that diet more into a whole food diet, which is the way we teach in these programs. But if that isn't the case, then I'm not sure that they're particularly useful and they could just be a waste of money. Okay. Karen Chimes Malin. Sorry to always post a question, but I love the programs and always have questions. Karen, I love people who have questions, so you're in good company. If we do the strength and cardio back to back, which I always do, you've recommended we do the strength first and then the cardio. My question is, do we then need to do the 10-minute warm up, or can we fast forward to the start of it? I feel like I'm already warmed up, especially because the strength really does cover the entire body. Great question. Yes, you need to do the warm up. And here's why. Because the cardio is about movement. Movement first and foremost. The warm up isn't really there. The warm up is only there to get you into the more advanced heart pumping movements. But the 5-minute warm up is designed to get your body moving, which is why during mine, and I noticed that Amy's warm ups are a lot softer. So with the next program, you'll find they're, definitely with Butt Camp in January that we're recording all the workouts for it now, you will notice that her cardio warm ups are a little more intense. But then the other thing is, her actual portions of the workouts, I think, are like pretty badass. So you might just want a more gentle warm up, but the warm up is designed to be movement. The warm up is designed to get your heart rate pumping, get your body moving. It's not really to warm up your muscles. It's just to get you moving and burning calories. So don't skip the warm up, because you're burning more calories when you're moving. It's the 20 minutes in between isn't the most important part. The 30 minutes of full movement is the most important part. So definitely don't skip it. And Krebs, I'm really struggling with this competition after the resistance. Oh, I'm really struggling with this competition. After the resistance workout, I'm struggling to recover to do day 2 resistance. I find my knees and back are in so much pain. Don't get me wrong. I would still purchase this again. I'm grateful to have it for life. My question is, should I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday resistance and 6 days cardio? I know I won't win the competition, but I'm looking that my wins are that I can get to where I can get to with 5 days resistance. Side note, thanks for the time you take to answer all the questions. You're so welcome, Anne. I love answering these questions. So here's the thing. The most important thing about strength training is that you find a system that works for you. These competitions have strength training 5 days a week because they are a competition, and the biggest it's judged on the biggest transformation. What's going to give you the biggest transformation? Resistance training and cardio 5 or 6 days a week. However, if you're not in it to win it and you don't care about the competition and you're finding that you're not wanting to continue with the 5 days a week and that 3 days suits you so much better, then it is totally fine to just do 3 days. You do what works for you. That's what I always say. Consistency over perfection every single time. I'm actually starting to plan now the B-Sculpted launch, which is the new company I'm launching next March, which is going to be a recurring model of just constant workouts, and not even challenges, but just these workouts continually. The whole thing is going to be structured beautifully, and we're going to do those workouts in such a way that we're not going to label them week 1, day 1, week 1, day 2. That's just going to be workout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each challenge is going to run, or each set of workouts is going to run for about 12 weeks. But they're not going to be designed to be done every day for 12 weeks, because I find what happens with that is people then get worried whenever they miss a workout and they feel they have to, catch up on the weekend, or it's like, oh, I did 2 workouts today because I missed one, because you want to be, perfect. You want to be an overachiever. Totally get it. Respect it. I'm exactly the same. But Amy and I were chatting about it today, and we were saying that what we both found is if something is week 1, day 1, week 1, day 2, week 1, day 3, if we miss a day, it's like, oh my God, I can't move into week 2. I can't leave anything behind, that didn't get done. I need to have that done. So we're going to just label the workouts, workout 1, workout 2, workout 3, workout 4, so that you can work at your own schedule. Maybe you do 1 workout a week, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 5, completely up to you. So, Anne, if that works for you and you're finding that that's keeping you motivated and moving forward and protecting your joints better and whatever else, then absolutely you do that. But here's another option I want to give you. What you can also do with these workouts is you can continue to do the 5 days, but don't do the active rest. So don't do the active rest in the programs, or just do each move for 30 seconds instead, or 45 seconds instead of the full 60. So I always say stop if you need a break. And I really mean that. Don't feel that you have to keep going with Amy and I, or with me. Don't feel you have to keep going at our pace. We're doing the most advanced version of the workout, but you can stop at 30 seconds, stop at 45 seconds, give yourself a bit more of a break in between, work to your own level with the workouts that you're doing. You don't have to go at our pace. So that's always an option for anybody. So all the options are open to you. You can literally do 3 days, 4 days. You can, spread them out longer if you want, or you can just do less time in the workouts rather than doing the full 60 seconds, and supersetting them back and forth. Completely up to you. Just do what works for you and do what will keep you consistent and moving forward in the future. Paul Goulet, for burning fat, if I am under percentage of BM and have muscle, how much calories eating? Sorry for my bad English. You're so cute. Let me see if I can decipher this. I think she's saying if I want to burn, if I'm under the percentage of body mass and I have muscle, how many calories should I be eating? So Paul, Paul, I think it is. I'm so sorry. I really don't understand what you're asking. I think she means if she's underweight. If I'm underweight, but I have muscle mass, how many calories should I be eating? So I can't really tell you that without working it out for you. But what I would recommend is that hopefully you can understand what I'm saying because I talk very fast. You really just need to work out your sweet spot for calories. So here's an easy way to work it out. Just eat whatever you want to eat and monitor your weight every week. Try to keep your food consistent. And take pictures every single week. If you find that you are putting on body fat, which is not what you want, then just cut down in what you're eating. It becomes a bit of an experiment back and forth. That's kind of the easy way to do it. The more scientific way to do it is go to thesculptedvegan.com/macro-calculator. So thesculptedvegan.com/macro-calculator. Let me see if I can put it in here. there it is there. So if you go there, I put it in the chat, macro-calculator, you can work out how much you need to eat in order to achieve your goal. And that's the easiest way to do it. Much easier than me trying to explain it. Okay, Christy Meyer. Hi, Kim. The program doesn't relate to my question doesn't relate to this program, but would you consider doing a follow along 3 or 5 day split program? So that's what we're launching next March, Christy. So we're launching B-Sculpted, which is an entirely new platform. It's going to be an online platform and an app. And you're going to be able to work at your own pace. You're going to be able to, all of the workouts will be structured in such a way that they can be done 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, however many days a week you want to work out, you're going to be able to choose. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Hi, Kim. I have issues with my wrists. Marie Matienzo is saying, what is an alternative exercise to tricep dips? Or perhaps there is a modification. I tried it with my knuckles. Is this okay? But if there's another way, please do tell. Yeah, so it's fine on your knuckles if you want to do that. That's totally okay. Or you can do any other tricep exercise. So you could do tricep kickback, so where you're bending over and you're kicking your arms back like this and squeezing the tricep at the top. Those are in the program a lot. You could do overhead like this with 2 triceps. You could hold 1 dumbbell and you can do them overhead. Keep wrapping your arms in like this so you don't splay them out. But another exercise that you could do actually is, this is a really good tricep one too, where you actually keep your arms out to the side and then you bring your arms in like this with 2 dumbbells. So loads of different tricep exercises. One of the best things you can do as well is just Google alternative to tricep dips. You know, I have bad wrists. What are alternative exercises I could do? And whatever Google gives you as an alternative is perfectly fine, because you're just working the triceps at the back of the arms. So any exercises that work the triceps, perfectly good substitute. And she's also asking, when it comes to our water intake for this challenge, is the formula of weight divided by 2 and then the number in ounces enough, or should we be drinking more? So here's the thing. I don't know where this has come. I don't think it's written anywhere in the program. And certainly I don't think it's in the welcome video about any formula for water, but I've seen quite a few questions in the group about people asking about the formula for water intake, or saying, I know that it's recommended that we should drink this or this. And I'm like, where is this recommendation? Because I don't remember it coming from me. So I don't know where it came from, but my recommendation for water is drink as much as you possibly can and don't sweat it. Like, seriously, just drink water as much as you can and you'll be fine. I don't ever focus on water intake. Like, I usually drink about 1.5 liters a day, 1.5 liters, 2 liters, minimum 1.5 liters, usually about 2 liters a day, which I think we worked out last week was about 68 ounces. So I drink that in a day from I get up till I go to bed. But if I don't drink it all, like, I don't sweat it. Like, this is my water bottle here, and this is the amount that's left in it. If I don't drink that before I go to bed, I won't sweat it. I don't sweat the small stuff. I just make sure that I do the best that I can do. And if you don't sweat the small stuff, you don't make it too hard for yourself. And if you don't make it too hard for yourself, you're much more likely to show up, which is what we want. Cynthia Kelka. My question is, I'm visiting my daughter, but I can't prep food. I have 4 more days here, but I'm doing my workouts every single day, trying to watch what I eat. How do I stay on 1,200 calories on vacation without going overboard? Also, why do you lose fat in your face first? My face is so skinny. I don't want that. I feel I have to eat more calories because I'm already skinny enough. So here's the thing, Cynthia. You can't decide where you lose fat from. That's why I had to get loads of fillers and Botox in my face, because my face, we call it prep face. Like, whenever you are prepping for a bodybuilding show and you become really, really skinny, you honestly look like you're ill, really, really ill, because your veins all, your veins are all out in your face. You become gaunt, like you lose fat from your face first. I lose fat from my hands. Like, my engagement ring like spins on my finger now because I'm so lean. And I lose fat in my hands, I lose fat in my feet, I lose fat in my face. You can't decide, you can't choose where your body loses fat from. So if you don't want to lose fat in your face, the only way to get it back is to inject it, unfortunately. That's what I do. I have cheek filler, temple filler, chin filler. I never got a liquid nose job, but I really want one. I have filler here in my frown lines. I have Botox in my entire face. I have lip filler. I have filler everywhere. Like, so it's like, that's why I am smooth and wrinkle free, and why my body does not show fat loss in my face because it's all artificially filled. Now, I understand not everyone can afford to do that or wants to do that, but that is what I chose to do starting about how many years ago? 2017, I think I started getting fillers. The first thing I got was cheek fillers. I like Cruella de Vil. I came home. I was like, the next day they were all swollen. I was like, oh my God. Like I looked like I had razor cheekbones. It was really quite funny. So you can't stop losing fat from your face. Unfortunately, that is just what's going to happen. How can you stay on 1200 calories? Okay, so that's easy. Just download some kind of macro calculator. My favorite is MyFitnessPal, but other people have other ones that they prefer. So download MyFitnessPal and literally just start inputting everything that you're eating. So scan the food that you're eating, or if you're at a restaurant, like try and guess what's, in what you're eating. Don't forget about the oils and the fats that things may be cooked in, and try and just input your calories that way. And if you're managing it by inputting your calories every day, it's going to help you to stay on track. You might not be perfect, but you can scan the labels of most foods and they will come up in a fitness tracker like MyFitnessPal, and you can just track your calories that way. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your macros don't have to match, but it's a really good habit to get into because it will show you how many calories are in food as well. You'll scan something and you'll think, oh, I'll just have that packet of potato chips. And then you scan the back up and you're like, God, there's like 170 calories in that packet. And then you think, oh, wow, like that's a hell of a lot of calories to sacrifice for, whenever I'm on very low calories anyway. So scanning everything routinely and seeing how many calories are in food, like really is quite shocking, especially whenever you're on a low calorie diet, because you look at that cookie that you want to eat and you think, oh, is it really worth it? And then you scan it and you're like, oh my God, that cookie's 220 calories. Like that's literally a fifth or a sixth of my entire intake for one day and one cookie. You're like, no, thank you very much. You realize how hard you have to work for your food whenever you start scanning it. So just download an app like MyFitnessPal and just input your food every day. And that's a really easy way to track it. Christina Cossi. For years, I got up and had coffee and ran 5 miles and ate very little and kept my weight. Then menopause hit, and each year my weight went up. Nothing seemed to work. I'd run more, eat less, and still put on weight. And she goes on, it's quite a long one. She says, in your programs, I did go on thyroid medication recently and I signed up for boot camp. I've never eaten so much food and so much protein, but now for the first time, I'm actually losing the weight. I think the thyroid medication is helping, but what changes when you eat like you do on your plans as opposed to hardly eating anything, and everything changes? So I can't say for sure, Christina, given your particular situation, but it's not really the food on this program. It's the combination of everything. It's the combination of the stimulation of the muscle fibers through the strength training, the stimulation of the cardiovascular system through the cardio, and then the stimulation of the digestive system through the meal plans. The meal plans are high protein. They're not high protein. They're high protein in comparison to, the calories on the meal plan. So you're maybe only getting sometimes like 120 grams of protein a day, but that's still quite often more than a lot of women are used to eating. So a couple of things. The magic in my program lies in the cardio, the training, and the diet. There's no one thing that is, well, the diet is the best thing really, but it's triaging those things together is what gives the best results. Why? Because the eating plan stimulates your digestive system and stimulates your large colon to process and digest a lot of fiber. That burns calories. So whenever you're eating more sugary, high carb, high refined carb foods, your body does not have to work as hard to digest those foods. So digestion burns calories. So you're burning more calories that way. You're also feeding your body regularly. So your body knows it doesn't have to hold on to any fat. The other thing is as well, you're eating high fiber foods, and like 80% of what you're eating isn't being absorbed into the bloodstream as calories. It's being passed through to the digestive system to be passed out as poop. So remember what I always teach. It's not what makes it into your stomach that's important. It's what makes it into your bloodstream. So when you change your diet to eat whole foods with a lot of fiber, very little of those fibrous foods make it into your bloodstream. So it might feel like you're eating a lot of food, but you're not actually consuming a lot of calories. And that's the difference. So that's why your body loses fat. A lot of times when people go on diets, they just cut down the foods that they normally eat. They don't completely change how they eat. They just cut them down. So it feels like they're, deprived of foods and they feel hungry a lot of the time and they're not really nourishing their body on a cellular level because they're just eating less. We're eating more, but we're eating less calories. We're eating more nutritionally dense, calorifically light food. So that's why the meal plan works so well. But then you're also asking your muscles to build and repair through the strength training. So building and repairing muscles requires energy. So your body is taking the energy out of the blood, and instead of sending it to fat store because you haven't been doing a lot of strength training or exercise, maybe, but before this, then your body is using the calories in your bloodstream to build and repair your muscle tissue and to satisfy your calorie expenditure through the cardio. The other thing about running is whenever you're a regular runner, your body, as soon as you start running, recognizes that you're running, and it actually shuts down your fat burning process. Because if you were to run for forever, right, or for a very long time, your body wouldn't be able to sustain that energy output. So if you're a regular runner, running more won't cause your body to burn more fat. It will actually cause your body to store more fat because your body goes, oh, okay, great, we're running. The energy expenditure is going to be high. So let's not burn fat because we need the fat for future to sustain the energy required for the running. So your body just releases very small amounts of fat and sometimes quite often burns off muscle tissue for energy because it wants to store the fat to provide you with energy for the future, because your body's very smart. Your body goes, okay, like fat is what keeps us alive. So if we have a threat to our energy system, which means that the energy output is super high and there's not enough food coming in to support it, which is what a lot of people do. They eat less, exercise more, which is always good advice, except if you just do more of the exercise you're used to doing, your body won't burn more fat because your body has a homeostatic norm for that kind of exercise. So if you're a swimmer and you swim all the time and you decide to increase your swimming, that's not the most efficient way for you to burn body fat. You actually need to change and do a different type of exercise to stimulate a different type of fat burning because your body recognizes the exercise and the activity that you always do. That's why we say if you're a group exercise instructor, or some people say, oh, I'm already a runner, do I need to do the extra cardio? We always say, unfortunately, yes, because running isn't going to burn any more fat, because the minute you start running, your body settles into its homeostatic norm and it doesn't go, oh, great, now she's running, let's burn fat. That isn't how that works. Unfortunately, you have to change the type of cardio you do if you have a regular type of cardio you normally do in order to stimulate a different pattern of burning fat. So that's why doing more of what you did before didn't work the same as now doing a completely different way, which is what actually stimulates the body in every way. But it's usually the three things together, the cardio, the muscle building, and the burning, and the meal plans, which actually cause the magic to happen. And that's why my programs get such good results. Okay, there's loads more questions, so I don't think I'm going to get through them all, but I will try my best to just whip out a couple more. Ursula. I'm not even going to attempt your surname, Ursula. I have a hard time doing bent over tricep extensions with the weights I have. If I do the overhead tricep extension, during which I'm able to lift much more weight, will I get similar results? Yes, absolutely. So you can just use one dumbbell for an overhead tricep extension. If you have a long looped resistance band, you can stand on it and you can use that for tricep extensions. Totally fine. Just do whatever works. They all do the same thing. Melissa Harris, it's been a great first week and Amy is super sweet. She really is. She's the best and she's coming out of her shell so much. It's amazing. My question is, for those of us in late perimenopause, if we can build muscle. I feel like any muscle I built in butt camp 3 is gone. I recall you saying that most people doing any kind of bodybuilding, especially in competition, usually get help from, let's say, peptides or substances, steroids, I think you mean. Is it realistic to think that those of us not doing that will get any kind of gains? If we will, how long does it generally take? Okay, so there's a bit more she wrote, but I'm just going to, for the sake of brevity, go on to it. Right, so Melissa, first of all, you will not have lost any gains you made in butt camp 3 because what builds the muscle keeps the muscle. If you are still continuing to work the muscle, then you will not lose the muscle. What people usually find is, because in butt camp 3 there was so much glute work, you probably had a constant glute pump whenever you're training. So you thought, oh wow, my glutes are massive. Now you don't have a constant glute pump, and so therefore you're like, oh, my glutes seem really small. It's not that they're small, it's just that they're not constantly pumped up with blood. So there's that. And also when you're on lower calories, this one's only 1200 calories, there's not a lot of carbs in your system. So you don't get that real full muscle feeling because your body doesn't have a lot of carbs to stuff into the muscle with water to make them appear fuller. If you were to go out and have a massive big, carb heavy meal, you would find, and then you did a workout, your body would blow up. Like, it's insane how that happens. So you have not lost any muscle. Just want to tell you that. The other thing is late in perimenopause, it's so not true. We're so led to believe that women in menopause need to do things differently. They need to treat their bodies differently. They need to lift differently. Stacey Sims has a hell of a lot to answer for. Like, honestly, I was going to say I can't stand that woman. That's mean. I don't mean that as I don't know the woman at all. But I find the things that she teaches to be very, very confusing for women. She talks a lot about periodizing your training and about women shouldn't do this and women in perimenopause shouldn't spike their cortisol levels. And I'm like, what a complete and utter load of crap. I think that, she appears to reference a lot of studies that have been done, but scientific studies are usually done on small groups of women and not for a long period of time. And they take, they're not even quite often controlled groups. So it's not like every woman of the same age, the same body fat percentage, the same weight, the same cardiovascular fitness. They're just like a random group of women that they do these studies on, and then they, report the findings, and then those findings become gospel. I find that Stacey Sims confuses more women than she ever educates. And she was called out recently by a guy called Joey Munzo that I follow on Instagram. I really like him. He's a doctor and a scientist, and he totally called her out on Stephen Bartlett's podcast and was like, she's actually just, what she's saying doesn't even make sense. It's just confusing. And I was like, finally, someone else has said it. I would never publicly shame someone on my Instagram, but I have been so tempted to do it with her because the amount of women that come into my programs and start saying, I heard this on the internet, and I heard this, and women shouldn't cold plunge, and women shouldn't do this, and women shouldn't do that. And I'm not saying that Stacey she's deliberately trying to confuse women, but I think that she's giving a lot of data without ever having real world experience. I don't have a lot of data. I do because I read the reports, but you know what I do? I read the reports and then I offset them against the tens of thousands of women that I coach every year in my programs. And I go, well, this isn't what I see. I see that women in perimenopause and menopause and late menopause and in their 60s and 70s build phenomenal amounts of muscle in my program. I see that they cold plunge with no adverse effects. I see that they don't take creatine and they still get great results. I see that they burn fat really fast, all of these things, I see all of these things, right? And, which directly contradicts a lot of the stuff that I see her teaching. So that's a Stacey Sims rant from me. So I'm going to completely bust your myth there, or bust what you're saying, Melissa, and say it's not true. I am late in perimenopause, okay? And I still build insane amounts of muscle. And the women in this program most of them are in their 50s and 60s. It's only recently, we've had an influx of younger members. I'm hoping Amy's going to bring in even younger members as well. But it's so untrue. The women in my programs get insane results from what we do. You have no advantage in my programs if you are 30 over someone who is 60 or 70. You really don't. If you're willing, the muscle responds to stimulus. If you're willing to lift heavy to failure and really work on building the muscle and using the principles that I teach, then you will build muscle. I think that's the difference. I think that because you're following along with me and I'm training you to failure, and I am not afraid to train you to failure. You're not like lifting 2-pound dumbbells or 5-pound dumbbells for like every single exercise. I am making you work hard. I'm making you work to failure and beyond failure, which is stimulating muscle growth at every age. Doesn't matter what age you are. The body responds to stimulus on the muscle no matter what age you are. The problem is, I believe most women in menopause are not stimulating the muscle effectively because they're not being taught how to do it. They're going to the gym and lifting heavy weights, which are not heavy at all. They're not going to failure. They're afraid of hurting themselves. And they're having people like Stacey Sims and other, people saying, all you need to do is wear a weighted vest. And, and if you go to the gym and but don't, put any stress on your joints, and definitely don't spike your cortisol levels. And I'm saying that's total bullshit. Go to the gym, spike your cortisol levels for God's sake. Wake your body the fuck up, right? Wake it up. Seriously. Like, spike your cortisol. Go for a bloody run. Sprint. Like, don't get me started. Kind of got started there, didn't I? Okay, reeling it back in. It's not true in my experience. So I'm not saying it's not true for everyone, but if you're lifting heavy into failure, you're doing it consistently, you're eating good food, you're sleeping well, then you're going to build muscle. I don't care if you're 70 or you're 17. Muscle responds to stimulus. It doesn't know what age you are. It only responds to stimulus. So, and people are like, but my testosterone levels are really low. I'm not going to be able to build muscle. Women's testosterone levels are tiny anyway. They're tiny. Testosterone is not the thing that's causing you to build muscle, or the lack thereof is not causing you to not build muscle. Okay. Last thing, how long does it take? I'm really sorry, Melissa, but it'll take you 3 years to completely transform your body. 3 years. You'll notice a big difference in a year. In 2 years, you'll notice an even greater difference. In 3 years, you'll have a completely different body. It's not going to be 6 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. It's going to be a year to notice a good difference, but you still will not be satisfied. In fact, you'll be shocked by how little your body changes in a year. 2 years, you'll notice a difference. 3 years, you'll have a different body. Glute growth. I've been working on mine intensely, not as intensely as I am now. And I'm definitely have a huge amount of growth since I really started 12 weeks ago. But I have been like working on my glute muscles for nearly 10 years and they're still not as big as I would like. It takes far longer than you would ever want or think to build muscle. So you just got to keep going and be patient and be in it for the long haul. And I promise if you do that, your body will change. Ta-da! I'm really sorry, guys, but that's all I have time for because I need to go home and cook dinner because I didn't get it cooked this morning before I left. So thank you so much for all the questions. Hopefully you enjoyed those. I always think it's not really a Q&A if Kim hasn't had at least one rant. I think I possibly squeezed 2 in there, just a short one and a reasonably long one. But I think the self-sabotage one was important. So thank you for all your questions. Remember to get your questions in early. The graphic goes up on a Sunday. I'm seeing all the hearts flying. I'm loving all the hearts. It's so good. The graphic goes up on a Sunday. So if you want to make sure your question is answered, you got to get it in first. What time on a Sunday? I don't know. Go back and look at what time the one today was posted and that'll tell you. Or maybe Corey can tell us, but he posts it. So the graphic's posted on a Sunday. If you want to make sure your question gets answered, get it in first. Okay. I always get through about maybe 10 questions. And there were some that were just added today during the Q&A, and unfortunately those ones will probably not get answered. But if you're in the app, I will see you tomorrow for our Q&A, and if I didn't answer your question here, I can answer it tomorrow, or feel free to post it in the group and tag me and I will definitely see if I can get to it. 12 p.m. Tasha's saying 12 p.m. UK time, which is 7 a.m. Eastern and 4 a.m. Pacific is when the graphic is posted. So lots of time to get your questions in. Okay. Sending you all so much love. Have a great week in Buns and Guns. Enjoy the workouts. They're my favorite. And I'll see you all next week for another Q&A, but I'll see you all in the group as well. Love reading all your comments and questions every day. Thanks for being you. Thanks for being here. From my heart to yours. Love you all so much.